Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin, and welcome to this week's episode of Podiatry Legends Podcast. Podcast designed to help you feel, see, and think differently about the podiatry profession. With me today is Zain Hussain, and he is the owner of Heaton Podiatry. He's been a podiatrist 10 years, and Zain was also at my marketing masterclass in Liverpool. Now, a few people might be listening to this and going, oh my God, Tyson, another person from your marketing masterclass. And the answer is yes, that's because my masterclass attracts really cool and smart podiatrists. So if you're a cool and smart podiatrist, you should consider coming along yourself. So Zain, how are you doing today?
Yeah, not so bad, Tyson. Good, thank you. Good. How are you?
I'm good. It's funny. I've had a number of people, and I've got more coming up, that were at the masterclass. And I noticed that it attracted a certain type of podiatrist, because I could just tell how you guys all got it. The majority of the people in the group just thought at a different level, even though you all had completely different businesses.
Yeah, that's it's interesting, isn't it? But the class overall was a pretty cool one that you talked to. Like,
Yeah.
we kind of all gelled well together with all the little bits you had going on in there.
Yeah, I think it's also, and I will point out, when we did the rock, paper, scissors competition, Zain was runner-up. He came second and got a set of juggle balls.
I did. They've been commandeered by my 11-month-old daughter.
You'll,
They've never
you'll,
been seen again.
you'll never get them back. Hey, so I was asking before, where is Heaton Podiatry?
All right, so it's a prefecture, you could call it, in Bolton. So we're just outside of Manchester, about 10 miles out. Yeah, it's kind of halfway between Manchester and the countryside, the Pennines. So we cover quite a wide range of an area, really. We've got the privilege of having the amenities of Manchester on our doorstep, but at the same time having the countryside on our doorstep. So it's a nice medium.
And you said there was someone famous that is around that area? Something about Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, so our clinic is based opposite the private school, Bolton School, and we had, I believe, Ian McKellen, amongst other stars, has graduated and left out of there. So it's got a bit of a back history, that school in itself. Very well situated. We're very conveniently situated opposite it, so it works in our favour, that.
Yeah, and I said to you, I had no idea who he was.
Yeah. That's like it's like you saying to me, do you know Mel Gibson? And it's like, oh no, I never heard of the dude.
Yeah, because you said, no, he's famous because of Lord of the Rings. And I told you that I can't watch any TV shows or movies, anyone that's got pointy ears, and just straight away I've been put off. Pointy ears and dragons I can't handle. You put the two together, it's just a complete turn off.
Yeah, you're not gonna be watching Lord of the Rings anytime. Saying that, it's probably about 15 years since I watched it, but that's his most notable performance that I can remember.
Yeah, I remember when it actually came out, Lord of the Rings, and as soon as I saw the first preview for it, I went, yeah, it's crap. I can't watch it.
It was filmed
And
around the woods, weren't it? Was it Australia or
New
New
Zealand,
Zealand?
New Zealand, I think.
New Zealand, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
somebody listening to this will go, it was definitely New Zealand. I'm almost sure. But the only person with pointy ears I said to you that I didn't mind was Dr. Spock, who was a Vulcan. So Vulcans are fine.
Yeah.
With Star Trek.
Yeah.
That I can tolerate. Anything on Star Trek with pointy ears was fine.
It's a
But
bit before my time, that.
anything mythical, when it's just mythical, because there's, like, I remember watching True Blood. It was a vampire show. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Love that. Vampires, I don't mind. And you're watching those shows and everything's great. But then all of a sudden, a bloody fairy or little wizard dude will turn up. And as soon as one person with pointy ears turns up in a show, that's like the beginning of the end. The show's going to go downhill after that.
I'll tell you what, there's one from your era. Do you remember The Lost Boys?
Oh, Lost Boys is good.
Yeah, that was a classic.
See, vampires can have pointy ears. As long as the vampires have the pointy ears, that's fine. But if you bring an elf, a fairy, bloody troll, anything like that in, just anyway. So today we're not talking about that. We're gonna talk about health, fitness, where that actually fits in as a podiatrist in your lifestyle and as work.
Yeah.
But before I get onto that, what was your journey into podiatry? How did you get into podiatry in the first place?
So it was a result of me not getting into physiotherapy.
Oh, duh. Well, aren't you glad you
Seriously.
missed out? Because you could just be rubbing hairy bums.
Possibly, yeah.
Oh, I just couldn't
Yeah,
think
not
of
enough
anything worse.
carbs.
I couldn't think of anything worse
It's a
than
blessing in
yeah,
disguise.
yeah.
Really was. I wanted to do it because my dad was one. I was
Okay.
mentioning to you earlier. So he ran quite a successful practice. And in his heyday, like I said, we had Tyson Fury sat on our front couch, Rico Verhoeven, and Amir Khan. Grew up with him. He lived down the road from us. So
Yeah.
we always had that kind of sporting clientele around us all the time. And as a young kid, you get inspired by it. You don't know what you want to do, really. I didn't. So I was like, all right, this is what my dad does. I think I'll go into it too. Lo and behold, it didn't happen. So I was looking around and then my dad suggested, why don't you look at podiatry? Went to
Well,
Salford
actually,
Uni.
go back a step. Okay, so that makes total sense now why you want to be a physio because your dad did it. You've seen that whole sports background. You've seen a successful business. You thought, yeah, this is where I'm going to go. I'm going to follow my dad's footsteps. We'll eventually work together.
Yeah.
How did it feel when you didn't get in?
It was a bit demoralizing. So I got offered, yeah, I was like, oh, you have this plan in your head, like it's going to go A, B, C, D, right? You're going to go A to B, and that's it. We're going to be there. Everyone's going to be rushing in through the door, and this is my life now. And when you get rejected by the institutions, it's like, oh,
Sugar. Oh, you can say
that's
sugar
not
on here.
worked
Yeah.
out. It's like, oh crap, we've got to get back to the drawing board now because I'm not going to sit around and be a bum. It's time to get busy. So I looked into podiatry. I looked into a couple of other things, and I think podiatry was the closest I could get to a biomechanical state of work.
Yeah.
But I would say it's more in depth almost when we're looking at the lower limb with some of the conditions that we come across.
So what was
From
it
what
that,
I've had,
why did you miss out? Was it to do with school marks? What was the process on missing out in physiotherapy?
my
Yeah.
grades point, I just didn't get the spot. It was just like a no. It was like, oh, sorry, you've missed out on this year's intake. So I was like,
Did you
back in
try hard enough?
2000,
Did you actually put effort in to get into physiotherapy, or were you just like, it's in my DNA. I'm just going to just cruise on in. I'm going to do enough work to get through because I just know I'm going to get in. Was it a little bit like that, or did you actually work your ass off and just not get in?
you know what? I guess you could almost say I had a favorable hand to get in because I had first-hand experience
Mm,
with how physio worked. I was around the clients, I was around the practice. I could see how things ran. I thought my personal statement defined that clearly enough, but clearly it didn't. But yeah, I
that's
just
good
took it
though.
on the chin.
Yeah,
I took it on the chin and I cracked on. And 2012, around that time, the university courses were free. They were sponsored by NHS bursaries. So the competition to get into particular courses was very high back then. I don't know what it's like now, but the competition was a lot higher. And yeah, that was that.
okay. So then all of a sudden you started looking around at other professions. Bang, podiatry was the one.
Podiatry came through. Went to an open day at Salford University and saw the biomechanical stuff. Back then they had a big gate room with the do you remember the markers? I think one of the 3D running companies use it now on the body.
Oh yeah,
You have the markers with the cameras and it
yeah.
maps the gate. I was like, all right, I can get with this. And then I got shown the actual chiropody clinic that they have there. And I'll never forget it, right? I went into this cubicle with this student and he looked at me and he's cutting nails and he goes, oh mate, he goes, I'm not doing it for this. And the lady on the chair was deaf. He goes, I'm here for the MSK. And I was like, all right, cool. I was like, they never told me about the nail cutting part.
Yeah, I must admit, when I decided I was going to do podiatry, I didn't know podiatrists did anything other than just making orthotics. And it's
Yeah.
because a friend from school had turned up who's I'd gone through school with for 12 years. I did that well that they wanted to keep me back at, I had to go do grade 12 again because I messed around too much. And plus I was going to be an art teacher, long story. But a friend of mine went off to podiatry. He came back and said, oh, we make these things called orthotics. And he showed them to me. He said, with your art background, he said, in your sports background, and he just told me all about it. And I went, yeah, I'm going to do that. That looks like fun. No one told me anything about having to practice injections on each other, just also, and no
So,
one even mentioned it. It was like they kept that part a secret.
yeah. Yeah. When I qualified, so long story short, when I qualified, everyone was fighting for the same. Private wasn't really widely acknowledged back in 2015. It was just like, oh, get an NHS job. So all my cohorts fighting for the same Band 5 NHS jobs in Manchester.
Yeah.
I didn't even bother applying. And one of my mates goes, oh, why don't you start localing? It's all right. So I was like, all right, cool. applied to this local agency. They go, yeah, we've got a job for you in Great Yarmouth. Tyson, I didn't even know where Great Yarmouth was. But next thing I know, 2 weeks later, I was driving 6 hours to Great Yarmouth to be a podiatrist. Uh, so this is like out in the sticks, right? There's probably one person every 10 miles around there.
Yeah.
And did 3 months there, ended up in Oxford for about 4 years after that. But that's where my scope of practice grew. Yeah. And that's where I got introduced to ulcers, actually. And I'm talking biblical ulcers, like post-apocalyptic ulcers, really bad ones. I've never seen this kind of stuff in my life.
Did you say
But that was me
biblical?
then.
Biblical ulcers.
Yeah. Yeah. It was something for the ages.
Oh no, you see, I would have given up if I always said when I left uni, I will never ever treat an ulcer. I just made that decision right there and then. And I remember actually applying for a job, for only job I ever applied for, which I did get. And I remember saying to her at the interview, oh, before we go any further, before we even go any further, just want to let you know, I will not, under any circumstances, treat an ulcer. And
Yeah.
she went, well, but if we have some patients that have got ulcers and you see them, I said, I will leave before I treat it. I said, it's just not happening. I said, I'll do anything else, but I'm not going to treat an ulcer. Like if anything's
Yeah.
got pus or anything dripping out of it, no, not touching it.
Yeah.
I said, unless I said I will throw up, I'm just not interested. And I still got the job.
Oh,
So
there you go.
there's a message for everybody. If there's certain things in podiatry you absolutely detest and you do not want to do it, if you're upfront and honest with potential employer right from day dot, then you'll never have to do it.
Yeah. You set the disclaimer, haven't you?
Yeah,
Uh,
because you can't bring it up after they've employed you. Go, oh, by the way, just let you know, don't do ulcers. To me, that deserves a kick in the pants.
yeah. Do you know why I stayed there? So I used to amateur box, and I
Okay,
got in with a really good team. So got in with a fantastic team called Blackbird Leeds. These guys have had guys go to the well, to like the nationals and what have you. And just through boxing with them and getting a clean record with them and getting a chance to box in the Oxford Union, RAF Prize Norton, I just ended up staying just for the lifestyle outside of the job.
that's good though.
And
That's
that was it.
important.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
Like the
think
job
that's
is
really important.
consuming. You need hobbies and lifestyles out of the job. And that's one of the reasons that we'll get to, which is why I left the NHS as I did 2 years ago, because it was just so consuming mentally and physically. It was impeding on my life outside of work. And fitness and health comes first, right, Tyson? If you don't have that, what have you got?
Well, I remember reading somewhere once, and it said that people will spend more money in the last 12 months of their life to stay alive than they'll spend over their whole lifetime beforehand to actually stay fit and healthy. They just
Wow.
keep thinking, I'm going to do it tomorrow. I'm okay. I'm doing fine. And they compare themselves to other people. But when the shit really hits the fan, they will
Yeah.
spend whatever they can to basically stay alive. And by then, it's usually too late.
Oh, mate, you're done. You're done and dusted. I'm a really big advocate on keeping yourself fit and healthy from a young age. And what we see now, once again, is catastrophic levels of diabetes, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, claudication in patients in a younger and younger cohort. And you've got to ask yourself, there's something wrong with society in general that this is happening, because it wasn't the case when I speak to my older colleagues 20, 30 years ago. We weren't having, when I left the NHS, we weren't having 40-year-olds coming then with chronic ulcers 20 odd years ago. So what's changing? Are we becoming more complacent? Is fast food more readily available?
Diet would have a lot to do. I think overall I think we're more active, but I think we don't eat as well as what we probably could have.
No. Do you
Or
know,
too
I had a
many options.
patient, too many options. I had a patient, right? She worked in the city in London, and she was up visiting her mum for 6 months, and she goes, Zane, she goes, I don't understand. She goes, no one in Bolton walks. She goes, everyone's fat. And I was like, it took me back a second. I said, what? She goes, yeah. She goes, everyone's fat. And I was like, how do you come to that conclusion? She goes, well, I work like 14 hours in the city, and I walk 20 odd K miles a day. She goes, I've come to Manchester, Bolton. And she goes, everyone's like, oh, want to go to the shop? Let's drive there. Want to go
Yeah.
there? Let's drive there. Like, the idea of walking has become non-existent.
It's funny. I
So it's
noticed
just,
that actually when you're in airports and and you might have to be walk from one terminal to another, and you'll be walking along, and there will be a number of areas where you've got 30 steps you got to go up, or you go the escalator.
yeah.
And I love watching who takes the steps and who takes the escalator. And you'll
Yeah.
see it's normally the people who look unfit and overweight are taking the escalator,
Mm.
and you'll see the fitter, healthier people will actually do the steps.
Yeah. I
And and you see some of the people on the escalator go, "No, you should have taken the steps. That would have been
yeah,
a that
yeah,
would have been a wise choice."
get that cardio in.
Yeah,
I always say, like, especially with training, so you and I train at running clubs. We do a lot of work on the track, a lot of work at the grappling clubs and Muay Thai clubs. And I was chatting to one of my mates. I was like, Bolton has a population of 300,000, right? And on a good night, we'll struggle to get 20 guys in, 30 guys in.
yeah,
That's like ratio wise, how many people are actually training and taking progressive steps to keep themselves healthy. And I'm not just talking about combat sports, I'm talking in general. What sports are you doing on your day to day? What are you implementing after work to make sure your own cardiovascular health is in tip top condition and your muscular health?
yeah. Well, before we get into that, I just want to move you. So you're in Oxford. You were there for 4 years. Got into ulcers. What made you leave Oxford?
So I got into the MSK department and I started designing like insoles to offload ulcers, which
Yeah,
was pretty cool. And then they lost the funding, it started going private, and all of a sudden we went from ordering these £200-300 custom orthoses to just giving everybody these £3 slim flexes off Amazon, right? Don't matter what you came in with, a little modification here and there. They were falling
yeah.
apart within 2 weeks. Anyway, COVID came, I had my last boxing bout, and I got onto the home county squad with that. And then I was like, I just felt my time was up because all I was doing was working, training, and just chilling a bit. So I was like, start making moves now. I'm hitting 25. I've had a good run. It's time to bounce out of
Yeah.
here. Time to go back to home base, regroup. I was actually planning on coming your way, Australia way, Japan way. There's a guy that does ski boot fitting in the resorts in Japan. And I was like, oh, let's just get out there and just go hit the hills for a bit. But then COVID came and I had to stay in Bolton. And yeah, I took a job at St. Helens.
Okay.
So that's a different end of the spectrum to Oxford altogether, St. Helens. It's very deprived. It's a very low income, working to poor class basically. So the cases and the range of cases you're seeing there were, yeah, eye opening.
Completely different.
Yeah, I mean, look, when you got areas that are nicknamed Mini Beirut, right? It gives you an idea.
But when you say like, were you faced with the same podiatry problems? They just didn't have the finances to actually treat it. Was that the biggest difference, or just a different array of problems?
I would say we were seeing even more ulcerations, more systemic cases of gangrene, necrosis.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Okay. So
just get
the
worse.
overall health in that particular area was just a lot. And it's like a lot of places where, like where I live here in Cairns, you can drive around and you can pick, not just because of the housing, but you can pick looking at the people that live in that area, just how unhealthy some people
Yeah,
are in some particular suburbs. So with that, with just chronic health problems actually attached to certain areas.
yeah, it comes with the territory. I mean, so I did about 3 4 years, three and a bit years in St. Helens as well, and towards the end, I just seen a massive exodus of experienced staff just leaving in the droves. It got to the point where I was getting seconded to the district nurses to go help them with like leg dressings. And I was like, oh, hang on, I didn't sign up for this.
So was this in the
So
NHS?
this was in the NHS, yeah.
Okay.
And listen, I'll help you out. I don't want a thank you email for dealing with some 20 stone ulcerated leg. I have no idea on how to dress because you're so short staffed.
Yeah.
So I called it quits there and I opened my private practice.
So to get back, so when you were in Oxford, was Oxford in the NHS or was Oxford at a private clinic?
NHS.
Oh, so that was the
Yeah.
NHS as well. Then you went to this other place. And so you were in the NHS over that period of time doing all the
Right, yeah.
ulcers. But then
Yeah.
eventually you just got to the point you went, I can't do this. I need to open up my own practice.
Yeah, I mean, I was doing lots of nail surgery. Don't get me wrong, I did a lot of nail surgery in St. Helens. I did a lot of MSK. But what I started doing was working privately for friends of mine, and I was getting my foray into private work. And I was like, well, hang on a second, why am I killing myself doing this for?
Yeah.
For a thank you email, right?
So
So I was
how long
like,
you've had your practice?
it's coming up to 2 years in April.
Okay. No
In April,
regrets.
no regrets. First 6 months, I got a big sign made, got a Google page made, and thought, yeah, let the floodgates open. around about 2 patients every 2 weeks. So that put a bit of a damper on things. I was like, oh, someone's done me a dirty here. All these good posts on UK podiatry. So I got a podiatry business coach actually,
Okay,
which
that's
which
good.
paid dividends. And she put me in contact with a marketing company. And them guys just transformed my practice. Now, one of the other things that I did was curate Google reviews. And we went from the second page in Bolton to now we're like the first, second, or first to third clinic that pops up. So in terms of exposure, it's done dividends. It's paid massive dividends. But yeah,
That's the thing.
no
Google
regret.
reviews. I always say to people, do you go before you go to a restaurant? Do you ever read the Google reviews? And most people will go, "Oh yeah, definitely." If you're going to stay at a hotel, do you look at the Google reviews? Yeah. If you're going to do a particular attraction when you're on a holiday, do you read the Google reviews? Yeah. So why do you think people do not read the Google reviews when they're? It's different if a friend said to a friend, "Hey, you should go and see Tyson, the podiatrist." That's completely different. They're probably not going to check out reviews. But if somebody's just searching for a new podiatrist, they're going to be looking for Google reviews. And if you've got three, and the last one was 2019, and then there's another person that might have 100, but the last one was a month ago. They might only get one a month. It's still more relevant. And I think Google reviews is just one of those things. You've got to have a system in place to constantly be asking for them. It's not
Yeah,
hard.
no,
And the best way to
it's
keep top of mind is to be writing Google reviews yourself.
yeah, yeah, I do. I do. I mean, I wrote one for you
You did. It was
after.
awesome.
Yeah, I
And it
think
was
pay
well
it forward.
deserved. Everything you wrote was well deserved too, I thought.
Yeah, pay it forward where you can.
But it's true. I try to make a habit of writing Google reviews. Like we went to a restaurant, a Greek restaurant last night, Yaya's in Cairns. First time I'd been there for my wife's birthday. And fantastic night. Just absolutely fantastic night. Took some photos. So I will be today. I will write a review, put some photos up there, because if I go somewhere, have a great experience, I love writing a positive review. If I go somewhere and it was an average experience, I just won't write a review. I won't do, I'm either going to do a 5 or I'm going to do a 1. I don't do anything in between. Someone has to really annoy the crap out of me to get a 1.
I always go by the saying like, if you've got nothing good to say, just don't say anything. So
Yeah.
it's either for me, it's like either a 5 or a nothing, and you're not hearing anything at all. But yeah, if it's
Yeah.
well
I
deserved,
do a
it is.
5. The only time I do a 1 is if I think the public needs to be protected from this place.
Yeah. Public hazard number one.
Yeah, like if I see a rat in the kitchen cooking like ratatouille,
Yeah.
I'm sort of like, I'm sorry, guys, but I draw the line at a rat chef. That's
Yeah.
just the thing. They're going to get a one star for that.
Well, you must be on the nicer side of the town where they don't have a gangrene and ulcers popping out everywhere.
And I tried, but yeah, I want a bit of that in your food. I did go to this one restaurant once. I didn't write a review for it, and we were eating, and my stomach. If something's not right, my stomach picks up really fast. I was about halfway through my meal. I'm going, I just don't feel the best. So I go to the bathroom, splashing some water on my face, just going, oh, okay, you'll feel better soon. Then I see the chef come in, takes a dump, comes out of the toilet, gives his hand the quickest little rinse under the water, no soap, and then picks up, there was a dirty like tea towel hanging there, rubs his hands on the tea towel lightly, and then walks back out. And I just went, oh, that is, and I then did a little into the sink, washed it down, and I walked back out there and went, yeah, okay. And I went, I'm not finishing the rest of my meal. I can't do it. I really can't do it. And they go, what's wrong? I said, I'm not going to tell you this until after you've eaten. I'm not going to tell you beforehand. And then when I told them afterwards, no one got sick other than me. They just went, oh, I couldn't go back there. And I didn't write a review. I just let that one go. I thought now would be a perfect time just to dive in and let everybody know that I am now offering hourly coaching sessions. I've had a number of podiatrists reach out to me recently who didn't want to be part of a larger coaching organization and didn't want to do ongoing monthly coaching. And this has become really, really popular. I didn't realize how many podiatrists would be interested in this. So if there's an aspect of your business, whether it could be a marketing question, it might be something to do with a team member, you might want to know how to attract the right podiatry team member to your business. Doesn't matter what it is, If you want to talk to me, you can block out an hourly session. And yes, it is a paid hourly session. If you go to my website, tysonfranklin.com, all the information is there. And from there, you can click on the link and you can book in an hourly session with me. And I've been in the podiatry industry for well over 35 years now. I have owned multiple businesses, and there's not too much I have not seen. And I continue to go to business conferences myself so that I can adapt that knowledge to help podiatrists better. So go to my website, tysonfranklin.com. If you want to do an hourly session with me and not commit to any long-term ongoing coaching sessions, please get in touch with me. Okay, let's get back to this interview.
And that relates to patient experience in your practice too. If they've had a crappy experience in any way, shape, or form, it reverberates through what they tell other people. It gives a vibe, doesn't it?
Yeah. So you can read reviews sometimes, and like I've read people's reviews where they've given a 1 star, and I stayed at an Airbnb because it had a 1 star. Because if I had known they were Trump supporters, I never would have stayed there. And it was just so hilarious that I have to stay there because I want to figure out what's a Trump supporter look like.
Yeah.
I turn up at the house and there's a massive big truck out the front. The whole thing was done up in the American flag and an eagle. And when I got in there, having breakfast with them on the second day, and they had an Airbnb Zoom meeting lined up. And that morning they said to me, Tyson, by the way, why did you choose our Airbnb? I said, because you got a 1 star review because you're a Trump supporter. And they got me to come on their Zoom meeting to tell everybody else in this big Zoom room why I chose that. And everyone was laughing their heads off. Thought it was hilarious. So not every 1 star review can be a negative. You can turn a negative into a positive quite easily.
How you respond to it. Yeah, big one's how you respond to it. If it's valid, take accountability. But if it's someone being a Karen, right, it's just the way you put it right.
Yeah, well, I've seen people write a 1 star review for a restaurant. Oh, yeah, I'm giving them 1 star because the traffic was so bad getting there. What's the traffic got to do with that poor restaurant? Traffic's got nothing to do with it. And like I always bring up, I remember the best 1 star review I got for my book. And the guy's written in there, all he talks about is you need to put your business in a great location. Yeah, everybody knows that. I'm going, okay, well, it's great if everyone knows that. Why doesn't everyone do it? Why do they have crappy, why do people put their clinics in the most awkward spots or just rent little rooms at the back of doctor surgeries that no one can find? But they all know they're supposed to have a good location. But I thought, if that's the only thing you took out of my book, I said, that's okay. I'm glad you gave it a 1 star.
Yeah. Yeah, big points. We're based on a main road. But one of the things I did was I went up and down this road and I looked at all the signs for the businesses. I was like, how do I pop more than everybody?
Yeah.
And so I got a big teal sign made, heat and podiatry, biomechanics, nail surgery. And that alone, when the traffic builds up in the morning, it's the one that catches their eye.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Yeah, just visibility. And I've had people just ring me, just going down the road, like, oh, mate, I've seen you sign. I see you do nail surgery. I've got an ingrowing toenail. Can I book in, please? And it's like, yeah, sure. I never knew you was here. How long have you been here? Oh, we literally opened up 6 months ago. That was when I first started. And then just through location, it built its own kind of clientele up.
Location is so important. I remember we had a clinic in Mariba, like a little country town, and we had a big sign up there. And I jokingly said to the sign writer, I said, what I'd like you to do, I want to sign up just how you're going to do it. But I said, I want a dog sitting on top of our sign with its testicles sitting over the top of our sign. Anyway, why do you want that? I said, so when people say, where are you? I said, we're on the main road. I said, you can't miss our sign. It stands out like dog's balls. And he just lost it because he was a friend of mine. He goes, I know you're joking. He said, my God, how funny would that be? And I said, yeah, I don't think it'd be up there very long before the registration board was on my back saying, you can't do that. But it would have been funny. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the most Aussie thing ever, that.
But so people listening to this podcast, very educational. If you've got this far in the episode, you deserve that joke. It was good. So you've set your clinic up. You've got a business coach, which is great. I'll point at people, it wasn't me. So that's all good. You started working with a marketing company, which I think is also good. If you get the right person that can help you the right way, your business has obviously been going pretty well. You came and did my marketing workshop.
Yeah.
But when we were at the Foot and Ankle Show, we were just talking about the importance of just health and fitness and how that
Yeah.
translates to your personal life and business life. Let's elaborate on that.
Sure. So ask away.
So your sporting background, what obviously you mentioned before that you did boxing when you were in Oxford.
Oh yeah, yeah. Prior to that as well. So
Yeah,
I mean,
and your dad was a physio and you treat a lot of sports people. So I'm assuming sports has always been part of your life.
yeah, big style. I mean, I didn't really pay much attention to it till I was about 16, right? Then I was like, oh, like I always had sporting traits, always did well athletically.
Yeah.
And then when I was 16, I was like, oh, I need to get a bit jacked now. So I started going back down to the grappling club a bit more, boxing clubs, and I just rolled with it ever since then. And wherever I've been, I've always made a point of going to the roughest area and joining the local boxing or grappling club. Because if you know all the ruffians, right? If you're ever out
Yeah.
on a night, on a
You got to
Saturday
be
night,
safe.
chances are you'll run into them. They're like, oh, yeah, we know matey boy. So that's how it came about. But yeah, health and fitness, how does it go one in one? So I saw the athletes coming in with the issues. And as much as athletes, there's many issues that come with it as well. They've always got strains, they've always got tears, there's always a foot problem, there's always something going on. And that's what kind of propelled me to keep on the career path that I was. That's why podiatry made sense for me. Once I got rejected from physio, I
Yeah.
was like, well, hang on a second, there's still a need here because even though I was a student, my dad would still have me in at the clinic. He bought a treadmill. I've been doing like a bit of gait assessment for him whilst I was there.
Oh, that's
So
good.
I was getting a lot of hands-on experience. And then he would do the orthotics. He'd get orthotics in and we'd get them out from there. So yeah, that's how it developed. Now, when I did, well, I should say over the years of training, mate, I've torn my calf. I've played football and given myself plantar fasciitis.
Yeah.
I've had MCL, LCL injuries from people barging into me, you name it. I've had the injuries and I've done the rehab as well, right? I've done the rehab and I know how long it takes. And when you've got somebody that's not only had the injuries but recovered from them, you've got a wealth of knowledge within yourself to then treat your patients because you're relatable in this particular field. So when I have patients come to me and they're like, oh, Zain, I'm trying to run a sub 20, sub 25 5K or sub 21 5K, right? There's a lot of knowledge transfer as well between us.
It is one of those things that I had another interview that I've done recently with Matt Clark, and he's gone to 2 Olympic Games in the 3,000 meter
Yeah.
steeplechase.
Right.
And he talks about how being a sports person, especially at an Olympic level, but just the things that he's gone through and the injuries and the rehabilitation and just how he can relate to patients better
Yeah.
because of that. So it
Yeah.
sounds like you're saying exactly the same thing. Is
Yeah.
it's because you've been really active yourself, you had the injuries, rehab the right way, got back into your sport. I think you can get into the mind of the patients a bit better. I think the patients respect you more for that.
Yeah. I mean, look, I only ever got to like a regional, slightly national level. So nowhere near as high up there as an Olympian, but
Yeah,
all the same, the injuries are the same across the board. You're relatable to the patients, and there's a lot to be said about being relatable to your patients. It's like tonight, I went to the club, done a bit of training with the guys, and one of the older guys, Paul, he'd last week, his leg just gave way. So he's hobbled in today, brought his kids, and he's like, oh, can you just, I said, I'll just check it for you. So checked it, confirmed ACL injury, a lot of movement, a lot of pain when we did our check-in, and give him a bit of rehab and he'll be at the clinic soon getting some laser therapy.
it's
And
funny
we'll be
actually because
yeah,
when we jumped on here, I have just come back from the Muay Thai gym. You have just come back from your grappling session,
that's right.
so we've both just had our bodies beaten,
Yeah,
and now we're
yeah,
now we're on here. That's why if anyone's watching the video, I look a bit red and flustered. That's why because I jumped on here half an hour after the class.
yeah. It's a lifestyle. Training is a lifestyle, and I'm all for when we talk about preventative rather than curative solutions in healthcare.
Yeah,
I think if we adopt a more healthy, it goes without saying, but it's common sense. Is if you adopt that healthy lifestyle from an early age, you'll carry it through your life, right? I'm testament to that. Some of the athletes you've had a testament to that. Chances are we'll have a low risk of chronic comorbidities when we're older as well.
I hope so.
But it's
But
all
it's,
from the mindset of you.
But I was very similar with you. I didn't really get into sport. Yeah, 13, 14, 15. Yeah, then I started playing rugby league. And in
Yeah,
my head, I always thought I was going to be a professional rugby league player. That was my goal. I
yeah,
was doing podiatry, but I'm thinking I'm going to be a professional rugby league player. I wanted to just see how far could I go. And so I started playing like A grade on the Gold Coast, and it was like the feeder. The team that I was a feeder team to like the biggest sort of
yeah,
league. And then I dislocated my shoulder and on my AC joint. Gee, and that hurt. And that made me realize very quickly that that's right. Yeah, you can get injured in this. Forgot about that side of things. And then had to weigh up. You're going to keep playing sport or you're going to do podiatry. So I thought I'll do podiatry. And I had a big layoff from sport and wasn't happy. I was always just not happy. As soon as I got back into sport, you always feel better.
yeah. It's a state of mind as well. I just find the relief, like the dopamine rush that you
Mm.
get from training, just something else. Nothing else compares to that adversity of training.
It doesn't matter how you're feeling before you do that exercise. When you finish that exercise, I'm yet to have anyone, when we finish the session in the morning, go, do you feel better or worse for that? And everyone's going,
Yeah,
I'm on fire. I'm ready for the day. And
ready to take the
anyone I
day.
know
Yeah,
that exercise in the afternoon, just it doesn't matter what happened throughout the day, how shitty they were feeling. When they finish whatever it was, whether even if it's walking the dog for 45 minutes, just that activity, you just feel better for it.
yeah. You feel A1. You feel A1. I mean, so this is another thing that drawed me towards physiotherapy. Everyone's looking jacked. Everyone's in shape, right? Everyone's like juice to the gills almost. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, so if we want to sell health as well as podiatrists, you've got to be, I would say, a figure of healthy self almost. It's like going to the gym and your PT's 20 stone overweight,
Yeah.
but you're getting told you need to do X, Y, Z.
And
People
there's different levels of it
trust you a lot
too.
more.
Like when I met you at the Foot and Ankle Show, and I think you were shorter than me,
Yeah.
but you were heavier than me. And I remember when we sort of were, because we spoke to each other a few times over thing, when we embraced at the end to hug each other and say goodbye, you were like a little rock.
Yeah. Sensitive. Yeah.
Jesus Christ. I'm thinking, okay, now I know where that 90 kilos is. It's just a nuggety little rock. So, so not
Yeah.
everybody has to be jacked that much. They're
No.
like rocks. But I just think, I think it's important for our profession to everybody to encourage each other to just be doing some form of activity, whether it's
Yeah.
walking every day, whether you're going for a light run, whether I'm not saying you should be grappling or doing Muay Thai or doing boxing, even though boxing is absolutely fantastic.
So when I left St. Helens, I remember one of the last team meetings we had, right? And this one I knew I was done there. It was 9 o'clock in the morning, and they bring snacks for the team meetings, right? And someone brought like 3 dozen boxes of Krispy Kremes. And like
Oh,
by
there.
12 o'clock, they were gone.
I must admit, I'm guilty of it. I love donuts. I
Right, but the funny thing was we were talking about diabetic rates and like ulceration rates in our region. So yeah, the hypocrisy was just too much for me.
yeah, I suppose it's one of those things. Like, have I always been into as much exercise as I'm doing now? No, but it's as I've gotten older,
Yeah,
appreciated why staying fit and healthy is more important.
yeah,
There's been times I've been a lot heavier than what I am now, but now I've just made it a thing. I do. I like my donuts. I love fish and chips. Love hamburgers, as everyone knows. Love ice cream.
in moderation though.
But for me to enjoy all those things, I must maintain a certain amount of activity. Yeah,
Yeah,
I love rum. I'm not saying to people, look, you got to give up all those things and you've got to exercise and you just got to eat lettuce leaves and carrots all day and very lean meat. Oh no. To me, you've got to enjoy life.
of
But I
course you
think
do.
the exercise is a big part of it.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's a huge part of it. It's something we need to push more in our conversation with patients too. I've got a review on my page. Patient left it on his own accord, and it's had a great treatment, but we also had a really good chat about health and nutrition. I think you was talking about this at your marketing masterclass as well, where you should introduce topics of like health and well-being into your
Oh,
conversation with patients because
definitely.
it just goes that much more further. There's no harm in doing it. That's a little nutritional course. If someone's trying to better themselves, it all comes under an umbrella term together, doesn't it?
Most patients that come in that are trying to get back into exercise. And it's not saying that you have to go off and become a dietitian and or give a whole
Yeah,
pile of nutritional advice, but just talking to them and making them aware about the different foods that you eat. Some give you more energy than others. Some of the energy levels are short-lived if it's too high in sugars.
yeah,
And it's just
yeah.
having those conversations, but not being fanatical about it. Because I know some people that are just so fanatical with what they eat, pretty much measure everything to the point of being annoying. And yeah, I'm not saying that everyone needs to be that extreme, but I think as a profession, we need to encourage each other
Yeah,
to. Wouldn't it be
I think
great
so.
if everyone, you got a group of 100 podiatrists together in a group, we all write down what our weight is, anyone that's carrying a couple of kilos, and we try and, as a collective group, how many kilos can we lose as a collective group, and we donate whatever we lose in money to a charity.
That's
See,
a fantastic
that
initiative.
would lift the if like say if a group in the UK did it and there was a UK charity to do with whether it was diabetes and you got together as a collective group, lost a certain amount of weight, raised money for it, and the whether it's the society or the foot and ankle show people might be behind it and donated that to the group, great promotion for the profession.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good way of looking at it.
Because it
Like
just
a
I've seen people do that at
effort.
gyms where they'll have a weight challenge and
Yeah,
everybody's yeah, you weigh yourself at the beginning, you lose a certain weight, and the competition's based on percentage.
mm.
So someone like you would be a terrible contestant because you're ripped. Whereas I could always lose a couple of kilos. There's nothing wrong with that.
I could run the session.
I'd be a contender.
Contender.
So I think what's important, and I'll get you to touch on this, is finding what activity is the one for you. Like you do grappling, you do boxing, you do Muay Thai. I love Muay Thai. I do boxing as well. We're obviously both inclined to liking sports that are a little bit violent.
Yeah,
And we
yeah,
both, we watch the UFC, we watch MMA fighting. We don't mind a bit of blood and gore on TV, but not everybody is into that. So I think it's important for people to just think about what activity would actually make them get out of bed in the morning or at the end of the day want to do it.
yeah. Do you know the easiest one of them all? Just going walking.
Yeah.
Effects on walking on blood sugar, right? Incredible. And if you live somewhere, we're lucky. We've got the hills at the back of us, so we're always up. We're always up there. I was taking my daughter when she was about 6 months old on my backpack up in the hills, had my missus out, and we had a great time up there, just getting the steps in. So if you've got a good scenic path near where you are, get out on a regular basis. And you'll often find when you adopt one aspect of a healthy lifestyle, it slowly transcends into other aspects of your lifestyle too. I've got a friend who's got a gym on his farm, Charlie Bowling, called Farmer Strong, right? It's really cool. So
Yeah.
they've turned the barn into a full-on high rock style gym. And then outside it's all sand and there's all these bits that you can use for training. And he runs classes. I've seen people go in there that were big. And to look at them like 6 months down the line, different person. The energy, the confidence, the weight, the waistline, it's all done a U-turn.
Yeah. And I think that's
So
the important part. It's not about, not everything has to be high intensity, especially if you haven't done anything for a while. It's more of the habit of doing something. So whether
get a
it's
community.
walking at the end of the day, and
Get a community to do it with.
I heard of someone down south that was in a colder climate and they started like a walking group and they tried to encourage their patients to meet them at like 7:30 in the morning at the shopping center because it was open, and they would take a group of patients and they just walk around the center for half an hour, 40 minutes, just to get them moving and get them all as a community talking with each other. And I know from that there's no way that the people in that group would ever go to another podiatrist other than them. And
Yeah.
there were people who
So
would then join that walking group who weren't even patients. They just knew that group was happening. And they did that pretty much every day of the week.
so that's one thing we're doing at the moment. I'm in talks with a walking group near us and a lot of elderly patients that are out in the hills. We're going to be doing bit of mobility work with them, stretching, and then just go for a walk with them. Any foot complaints and what have you, we can talk about it on this walk, and then cards get swapped,
Yep.
and that's how you end up with patients as well, as a result of your shared interest for fitness and health.
Well, I remember I said to you at the foot and ankle show, I'm pretty sure. I remember that someone said to me once, never take advice from a fat doctor. Yeah,
Yeah,
or never take health advice from a fat doctor because they're obviously not following the advice themselves. And I think as a health professional, it's up to us we don't have to be ripped. We don't all have to look like you, Zane. We just, you can just be, yeah, you can carry a couple of kilos. That's fine. But I think your patients just need to see you as you look healthy. You look like you look
yeah,
after yourself. You
yeah.
talk about exercise. You talk a little bit about what you're eating and what you're not eating, and whether you like hamburgers or not, and rum, that doesn't really matter. But I think as a collective group, the profession needs to start looking after ourselves, and we need to encourage each other. I look at the profession, and I know when they have the national, like bigger events here in Australia, some of the shoe companies will sponsor like a running group in the morning, and there's a certain group of people that will actually do it. But running isn't for everybody.
No,
Like I can't run. And the only time I run is if I'm being chased. That's it. And even then,
yeah.
I reckon I just wouldn't even run now. I'd just stand there and fight because my
All the
ankles,
fun,
my,
all the
my ankles are
fangirls after you.
buggered. Yeah, my ankles are buggered. I think I'm better just stand. Yeah, and just try and defend until somebody
Yeah,
until somebody gets some help.
yeah. Trade blows to the end.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, if anybody wanted to reach out to you, and because they thought, oh, this Zane guy's pretty inspiring, I'd like to talk to him more about health and fitness or Lord of the Rings or anything like that, what's the best way of getting hold of you?
You can go on our Instagram handle, which is at Heat and Podiatry. If you want to you can submit a form through our website, which is heatandpodiatry.co.uk.
Okay.
So that's our two main handles that I tend to use as forms of communication.
And if they wanted
Yeah.
to track you down on Facebook, just look up your name.
Yeah, Heat and Podiatry again, Heat and Podiatry
Yep.
Bolton on Facebook, and we're on there as well. So yeah, we're in a couple of different three. That's our three main forms of social media. Goes back to your marketing again. Which ones work for you in terms of your social media outlets that you use? And Facebook, Instagram, and the web have been our best ones so far.
Oh, yeah. And I said that in the workshop that you've got so much choice on what you could do.
Yeah,
Find out what your ideal patients want and then just focus in on those and don't
yeah,
try and be everywhere. It's impossible to do.
yeah, yeah. I think things like Twitter and all that, I don't see it paying dividends. Maybe 10 years ago, but not in today's
Oh,
day and age.
Twitter.
Everyone
No.
wants fast form content. That's what they're after. And
Yeah, I was cool.
good engaging content. So I
Mm.
just put, like I said, I put a video up today of was at the end of the session, and we were just
Yeah.
doing. I was just shoulder throwing the boys, one after the other. And I thought, why not? Let's just show our cohort what we do after training. We've been
Yeah.
fasting all day as well. It's been Ramadan. We're in the middle of Ramadan at the moment, so we've got to put that extra work in.
I posted something on Facebook at the Muay Thai gym that I go to. When it's your birthday, if you turn up to training on the day of your birthday, everybody who's in the session that day gets to punch you in the stomach the same amount of times as your birthday.
Yeah, you're gonna have a six pack by the end of it, aren't you?
And yeah, the guy the other
So,
day, he turned 32. So all of a sudden he's getting 32 punches. And everyone said, oh, Tyson, when your birthday is, it will be worn out by the time we get to the end. So, and I said, well, fortunately, my birthday this year will be on a Sunday.
yeah, you're not there.
I said, so I won't be. You have to be there on the day of your birthday. But I posted that on Facebook, just on my personal page, and I think it had like 900 views. But the comments of everybody just go, that's just crazy. Why would you do that? You go, because it's fun. Because I was going to ask you, with your social media pages, the health and fitness stuff that you do, whether you're grappling or the boxing or health and fitness in general, you bring that into your social media pages?
I've just started, and this goes back to your marketing class once again. It's worth its weight in gold because
Yeah.
I relate a lot of what I do now to that. And before, I wouldn't really post much about my training. Maybe the odd Instagram story at the running track, but we're trying to bring in a certain type of clientele, right? So we do a lot of MSK, and that's what we're aiming towards. And it'll be good for the patients to see this is what we do. So I'm going to start posting. I've started posting a lot more of our stuff, a lot more of the training on there, and things like rehab. So I think for your average Joe, once you get towards the end stage of your rehab, to say like an ankle sprain, you're using wobble boards or you're hopping. We'll do one at the club where I'll have one of the guys' legs, he'll be hopping around, and then I'll be foot sweeping him into oblivion.
Yeah.
Just for a bit of a comedy effect.
I know, it's even this
But
morning,
just
I've got a sore, my soleus is
yeah,
really sore because this morning we were doing this thing, we were doing a switch rib kick and then kicking the soleus on the opposite leg to drive it out before doing an uppercut.
yeah,
But it's funny doing it. And that's what I mentioned when we were doing the workshop was patients want to know what you're doing outside of podiatry, and bringing some of that into your social media pages. Like I know anybody that I follow on any social media, when they bring some stuff in that I wasn't expecting, it's enjoyable.
yeah.
So what that,
Humanizing.
yeah, well, that video I told you about with the guy getting punched in the stomach, what I'm going to do at the moment, it's only on my private page, but I'm going to post it in the Podiatry Business Owners Club page, that actual video of him getting punched in the stomach. When I release this episode, I'm going to post that at the same time. So if anyone listens
All
to
right.
this, they'll understand why that video has actually been posted there.
Yeah, makes sense. It'll be good to see.
And therefore,
It'll
when
be great
people
to see.
see it, they'll go, ah, and to me, that's an example of the stuff that you could post on your podiatry pages and your patients will not be offended by it. In fact, they'll go, oh, wow, I didn't know you did that. And that
Yeah,
will be a conversation. Because from the time of meeting you, there was a few people I spoke to at the Foot and Ankle Show who did different types of different sports. And it really just gave us a lot to talk about.
yeah. Do you know, I found with the combat sports, because that's just one aspect of it. That's just your technical training. You've got to do your road work. You're doing your 5Ks, you're doing your 10Ks, you're doing your sprints. There's the other aspect of your lifts. So I do a lot of Olympic lifting as well. And
No,
that's
you do 5Ks, 10Ks, sprints, and lifts. I don't. I,
all right.
no,
Yeah.
I've only just rejoined the gym again just to get back into doing a bit more resistance. But no, I mean, but you're a lot younger too, so you can push your body that much more.
I mean, I turned 30 this year, and
Yeah,
I
a
feel
lot
like
younger.
on the advent of turning 30, everything just took about 2 days longer to recover as well. So the creatine's out a bit more than it used to be.
Yeah,
Fantastic for recovery, by the
yeah,
way.
but I'm 58 now, and but I still go. I still do Muay Thai 6 times a week. So
That's a lot of Muay Thai. I do Muay Thai once a week at the moment. I find it pinches my hips a bit, some of the kicks.
oh yeah,
Yeah, I just find it I just feel like in my acetabulum a bit. It pinches in there just a little bit, but maybe that's just my technique not spinning enough on the back foot.
yeah, I know. It's one of those things. I think it's with any, the more you do it, the better you get, the easier it gets. But yeah, I'll have some days where I wake up and I'm just going like, oh, I feel like hell. Then I have other
Yeah,
days like this morning where I came back and I feel fantastic. And,
yeah,
and if I don't, I'm so used to just doing exercise now that even if I didn't go to Muay Thai in the morning, I would still get up and go for a walk with the dog because
yeah,
I feel if I don't do something, I get grumpy.
yeah. Do you know, I used to say Muay Thai was the grappling was the hard stuff. The Muay Thai was me and my mate used to call it therapy. So it's
Yeah,
just because it was just so flowy and just so chill. And I was watching a podcast recently with Joe Rogan and Faraz Zahabi, one of the MMA coaches, and he goes, why is it in America you get once in a decade you get a star Olympic wrestler, right? Whereas in Russia, they've got like 10 in one village. And it's all to do with the training intensity. And in America, they'll do two, three hard sessions a week and that's them done. Whereas kind of like Muay Thai, the Russians, they train light, but they train every day.
yeah.
So they don't kill themselves every day, and therefore they get more technical time, they get more mat time, and yeah, they just dominate the sport.
Well,
There's a lot to be said about training intensity.
but in Thailand, they're constantly training all the time. Like the gym I go to, a few of the guys there and some of the fighters that are in the class, they'll do the morning class and they'll be back in the afternoon and they'll do the
Yeah,
fitness class, the pre-fight, and the fight class. But nothing is crazy. Like I could do the morning. If I had the time, I'd do the afternoon thing as well because it's a lot of cardio,
yeah,
but there's not a lot of intensity as in getting hit yourself? Occasionally you get hit and you go, okay, that hurt a bit. But rarely does that actually happen.
Yeah. Depends on the gym culture. One of the gyms I used to spar at, it was all heavy sparring. We used to lock the gym after the casuals had left at 9
Yeah.
o'clock. Coach would lock the gym, and it'd just be the carded boxes, and we'd do like dog rounds. That's what it was called, right? And it was such a laugh. Everybody was beating each other to a pulp basically for like a minute, 2 minutes, and another couple of guys would jump in the ring, and we'd be there till like 10:30, 10 o'clock at night, right?
Yeah, but you're talking about your grappling though. You can't do grappling light, can you? It's always just, whenever I've seen them doing classes, there always just seems to be a lot of intensity. So I couldn't picture doing that 6 days a week.
No, you can't. You physically can't. So I limit myself to 3, maybe 4 spars at the end. That's it. That's me done. I'll
Yeah.
do the 2 hours of technical work and the conditioning. I'll do a couple of spars at the end, and then I'm off for the night, guys. I've got to go work in the morning. I've got to go pick up feet in the morning. You know what I mean? It's these young guns, right, that are at uni and that they've got a different type of energy about them. But I need to go home.
You got far more energy than me. So anyway, Zane, I want to thank you for coming on the Podiatry Legends podcast. I think this has been a really important topic about health and fitness and podiatry, and let's get all the podiatrists just thinking about their health a little bit more and then sharing that information with the patients. So thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, cheers for having us. It's been interesting. It's my first one ever, so
There'll be more to come. And I'll see you at the Foot and Ankle Show next year because I've already got my invite for a return visit.
oh, magic. Yeah, I'll be there. It's in Liverpool, so it's only down the road.
Yep. Okay. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.
Cheers, man. See you in a bit.
Well, I hope you enjoyed today's episode with Zain Hussain from Heaton Podiatry in the UK. And I hope it has inspired you to get a little bit more active if you aren't already. And if you know other podiatrists that feel could use a little bit of motivation or could use a little bit more activity in their life, get them to listen to this episode. And not only will it be a benefit for them, it'll be a benefit for the profession because we'll all look better, but it'll also be a benefit for their patients. Now, before I wrap up, just to remind you, if you don't know already, I do have a YouTube channel. Just go to Tyson E. Franklin, and in there you'll find videos where I just share some thoughts that are going on in my head, some business tips, and also a bit of marketing advice. So go to Tyson E. Franklin on YouTube and take a look, see what you think. And if you like it, please hit subscribe. Okay, that's it for me this week. I want you to look after yourself, look after your family, and I will talk to you again next week. Bye for now.